out of the shadows and into the night. I'm back! And the purpose of this video is to defend the 1987 Kiss album, Crazy Crazy Nights. Now you might be wondering, why would I feel the need to defend an album which reached 18 on the Billboard Hot 100? An album which was the top-selling Kiss album of the 1980s. Well, it's precisely for that reason I feel like a lot of Kiss fans malign the record. They write it off as a pop metal album following the trends of the 1980s, and they don't give it its due because the band set out to try to make a hit, to try to have a commercial album, rather than just going out and making a kick-ass hard rock record to satisfy the members of the Kiss Army. So that's why I'm here today to defend 1987's Crazy Crazy Nights by hard rockers Kiss. So stick around. Cat Stanley Space Demons coming at ya! Okay, so 1987, Kiss enters the studio to record the follow-up to their 1985 album Asylum, an album that reached 20 on the US Billboard 200 on the strength of the single Tears Are Falling, which managed to make it to number 20 on the Billboard Hot Rocks tracks, and number 51 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. And this time the band decided they were going to try to make a more mainstream pop record, try to make a hit album. So they enlisted producer Ron Nevison, who had previously worked on Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti and The Who's Quadrophenia as an engineer, as well as the first 3 Bad Company records. So Paul Stanley was familiar with his work since the 1970s, and as a producer, he had a lot of success on contemporary hit radio with hit singles from groups like The Babies, Dave Mason, and Survivor. And of course, Heart. He had 2 number 1 singles with them, as well as big singles with Chicago and Ozzy Osbourne. And going into the album, Ron Nevison knew that the band had a fan base that was really fanatical and dedicated, and he didn't want to piss them off, but he wanted to break new ground. He wanted to go with what was happening on pop radio for 2 or 3 of the songs, so he added synthesizer to give the songs bigness on 3 or 4 of the tunes. Of course, the song Crazy Crazy Nights had a synth in the chorus, but he says, in hindsight, he felt like he used a little too much synthesizer on the album, and in retrospect, he would have mixed down the synthesizers a little bit more. Crazy Nights is an album. Paul Stanley said he thinks it's a better album than it wound up sounding. He thinks it's a bit plastic sounding. Gene Simmons has said he thought the album sounded thin. It was one of his least favorite Kiss albums. He thought it was much too pop. Bruce Kulick had a bit more better things to say about the record. He said it was clearly a very rock pop album for 1987, and he liked producer Ron Nevison. He thought the album was very well done, and he liked that Nevison made sure that when he did a solo, it took center stage. So let's dive right in. I want to dive right in to the Crazy Crazy Nights album. Why I think it's a great record. Of course, the opening song, Crazy Crazy Nights. Now, Kiss are all about anthems, particularly Paul Stanley. It goes back to Rock and Roll All Night, songs that are a rallying cry. And Paul has written several of those types of songs, some better than others. But I'd say Crazy Crazy Nights is one of his best. Now, first off, it starts with that riff. Ba, ba, na, 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 na. Ba, na, 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 na. And as much as it is an anthem, it's also kind of a love letter to the fans. He's got the line, "These are my people and this is my crowd." And he says, "They try to tell us we don't belong, but that's all right, we're millions strong." Now, maybe it borders a little bit on cheese. This is our music, we love it loud. Of course, a callback to Creatures of the Night. But it kind of, when you listen to it as a Kiss fan, it kind of gives you goosebumps. It gives you a little lump in the throat. And I think it's a great song. It's one of Kiss's best anthems. Fantastic track to kick off what I think is a great record. Now, track number 2, I'll Fight Hell to Hold You. I think it's another great Paul Stanley song. Paul Stanley's killing it on vocals. He's really showing off his range on this song. It's got that ballsy verse riff. Fantastic drumming by Eric Carr. And you know, even though it's kind of a poppy song, it's not too happy sounding. They didn't sacrifice balls for catchiness and pop appeal. It's got a good balance of that rock and 80s pop metal sound. The chorus is fantastic. I'll fight hell to hold you. No river too deep or mountain high. Of course, a callback to that great soul song, River Deep Mountain High, Ike and Tina Turner. I mean, it's one of my favorite non-makeup songs. One of my favorite Paul Stanley songs. I think he got it right on this one. I'll Fight Hell to Hold You. Kick-ass song. Now let's move on. The next track, Bang Bang You. Probably one of the low points of this album. It really kind of falls into self-parody. It's like taking the 80s glam metal sensibility to an extreme ridiculousness. He says, I'll shoot you down with my love gun, which is a feeble attempt to call back to the 70s sound of Kiss. Of course, the song Love Gun, maybe, you know, trying to appeal to the old 70s Kiss fans with that reference. And you know, it's easy just to call that song a piece of crap, but when I was doing this deep dive, I have to give credit where it's due, because I actually like, lyrically, that second verse, I think is very good. If you actually listen to the lyrics, long before Billie Eilish, Paul Stanley's talking about being a bad guy. You know, before there was Razor Ramon, say hello to the bad guy. Paul was talking about being the bad guy. He sings, if love's a crime, I've got 100 schemes. I'll be the villain in your book of dreams. I dig it, man. I gotta be honest. In an otherwise song that's a piece of dung, he's got a couple of great lines in there. And you know, I've had a lot of fun at Paul's expense on this channel, but I have to give him his due when it's due. Even in a song that sucks like Bang Bang You, there's a couple of great lines in there that I really dig. And of course, another bright spot, Bruce Kulick's playing very good. He uses just enough restraint when it comes to the 80s shredding. I don't know how much that has to do with him. Probably has more to do with the producer Ron Nevison keeping him in check. But Bruce Kulick, as well as the song I Fight Hell to Hold You, playing great. He's got some great playing all over this album. I mean, I'm going to say that right up front. Rather than beating it to death on every song, talking about how great Bruce Kulick is on this record, I'm just going to say it now, and then we'll just focus on the songs from here on out. Okay, Bruce Kulick kicks ass on Crazy Nights. Next song, No No No, Gene's first track on the album. Now, Gene has said about the song, he actually called the song one of those car accidents. Bruce Kulick started fooling around with a lick. Whenever you plan something too much, it tends to backfire. He says they tried to do something really fast because those fast songs were popular at the time. He said the lyrics came very fast. Most of the chord changes came from Bruce. He says it's not one of my favorite songs. It has that who are you trying to impress vibe in a musicality sense. But you know, they did turn Bruce loose on this. And personally, I think maybe he went a bit too far with the shredding, but I like the song No No No. Gene Simmons on Crazy Crazy Nights. The next song, Hell or High Water. Another good Gene tune. Pretty straightforward. It opens with that classic hammer-on lick, that Stonesian thing you hear in a lot of rock songs, a lot of Kiss songs, like Rock and Roll All Night. And pretty good Gene song. Next song, My Way. I love this song. Now, a lot of you metalheads out there might disagree with me because it is very poppy and the keyboards are very prominent. But I think it's a great lyric. It's a great message. My Way. Paul Stanley co-wrote the song with Desmond Child and Bruce Turgeon. And he says, when the heat is on and my back's against the wall, you know it's tough to be strong in a world that makes you crawl. He says, I'm going to talk like I talk, Walk Like I Walk My Way. I love it. Again, Paul Stanley kicking ass and taking names. Credit where it's due, even though he had a couple people help him write that tune. And again, it's another one of those anthems Paul tries to write. He's written a lot of them. And you know, when you try to write an anthem, it can get dicey because they can be hit or miss. They can sound really cheesy or they can be really good. I think he knocks it out of the park on this one, My Way. Kick-ass song, Paul Stanley. The next one, When Your Walls Come Down. Another one of the album's low points. Paul Stanley goes from the high of My Way to the depths of When Your Walls Come Down. More 80s cheese. I'd put it in the self-parody bin along with Bang Bang You. The chorus isn't terrible, but it doesn't justify the rest of the tune. Just when you think it couldn't get any worse, as the song's fading out, Paul throws in this "Here Kitty Kitty" thing. Pretty embarrassing, pretty cringe. Next song, Reason to Live. Paul said he wanted to have a ballad on the record, but ballads are real touchy because when you do a ballad, you have to make sure you're not wimping out. And Desmond Child, who co-wrote the song with Paul, takes the credit for that song. He says it was mostly his concoction and it was more of a keyboard song. Paul contributed to lyrics. He wrote stuff on it, but that was more my style, Desmond Child's style, than Kiss's style. But you know, I think they achieved what they were trying to accomplish on that song. I understand if you're a metalhead, you'd probably hate that tune, but I think it's okay for what it is. You know, it's an 80s power pop song. That's what they were going for. And you know, much like the disco tune, I Was Made for Loving You, the Rod Stewart song, Hard Luck Woman. Paul's the kind of guy, he writes these type of genre songs. He tries to capture a specific vibe, and I think he did pretty good on Reason to Live. Love it or hate it, it is what it is. Gene's next song on the record, Good Girl Gone Bad. You know, it's kind of a trite notion, kind of 80s hair metal cliche, the good girl gone bad. But again, as a genre song, that 80s pop metal thing, I think it's okay. Gene has certainly done worse. Now the next one, another song I really love. It's written by Paul Stanley and Diane Warren. Turn on the Night. I think this is a fantastic song. Now to me, this sounds uncannily like Van Hagar. Okay, in 1987, Van Hagar, I think they were still riding the wave of 5150, the first Van Hagar album, and it sounds like maybe Stanley and Warren were going for that Van Hagar sound, because goddamn, if you listen to the chorus, I'd swear Michael Anthony and Sammy Hagar are singing backup on this son of a bitch. But according to the liner notes of the record, the only background vocalist that gets credited on the album is a guy called Tom Kelly. But goddamn, it sounds like Van Hagar to me. Lyrically, it's pretty straight up pop, but it's catchy as hell. Turn on the Night. I mean, if they were going for Van Hagar, I think they did a great job. And I love the song, Turn on the Night. Next song, Thief in the Night. Gene Simmons song. He wrote it with a guy called Mitch Weissman, who was in Beatlemania. You know, it's the final song on Crazy Nights. Wraps up with this little mid-tempo rocker from Gene Simmons. I really like the chorus. Like a thief in the night, she breaks into his heart. Now, the obvious thing would have been something like a thief in the night, she steals his heart, or something like that. But Gene Simmons takes it in a different direction. She breaks into his heart. I really like the song. Just sort of a mid-tempo rocker by Gene Simmons. To wrap up the album, Crazy Crazy Nights was very successful commercially. I think it's something of a divisive record when it comes to Kiss fans. Maybe I'm off base. Maybe everyone loves it. Or maybe most Kiss fans thinks it's a piece of crap because of the low moments like When Your Walls Come Down and Bang Bang You. I don't think they're enough to weigh down the high points of the album like Crazy Crazy Nights, Turn on the Night, My Way, some of the better songs on the record. When it's awesome, and when it sucks, it sucks. But I think the high points more than balance out the low points, and I think overall it's a great record. maybe my favorite from the non-makeup era. And that's the video today. As always, want to hear what you guys think about the topic discussed hitherto. And we'll see you next time.
Who's here?